Hello everybody, this is Endothermic here, and I'm bringing you a basic baseline Frost Mage guide for patch 5.4. And this is for people who just hit 90, who boosted at 90, coming back, switching back to a Mage, and they hear that Frost Mage is the best at lower item level until you get that crit or not a high mastery per se. There's no magic number for that, but anyways, this is for Frost Mages and people interested in playing the spec. It can be a fun spec when you start out. It gets very boring and very dull when you have to play it over and over and over again, and you just want to switch to fire or arcane because the ability, I guess, to play them requires, I guess, a little bit more thinking than Frost does. Frost is very baseline. Anyways, so let's jump right in. We got our talents. We got Blazing Speed in Tier 1. Blazing Speed is a very great utility for you and your raid. I mean, that 1.5 seconds is very useful. You can go ice flows, but it's really not how you say recommended. But if you want to take it, you can go ahead and take it. It's not gonna hurt you. Tier 2, I go with the Temporal Shield over Ice Barrier. Some fights I'll switch to Ice Barrier, but I prefer Temporal Shield because it's off the global cooldown. It provides a nice damage reduction with a small heal back, which is, again, fantastic. Tier 3, we don't give a crap about as mages in the PvE environment. They are all PvP talents except I'll go with Frostjaw. It's a interesting freeze and silence as well. It can actually have potential in PvE depending on the situation. So that's why I roll with Frostjaw. Tier 4, I go with Greater Invisibility because I get anywhere between 3 and 6 seconds of 90% damage reduction, which is fantastic. Although on some fights, if you prefer, Cauterize is a very, oh crap, I just almost got one shot uh, mechanic when it's available. If it's not available, then you kind of just died. So yeah, Cold Snap there's not really a need for Cold Snap in PvE. So that's concludes the survivability talents. Tier 5. We are, oh god, our mage bombs. We go with Living Bomb on almost every fight that is single target. Nether's Tempest on every other fight. So the type of fights that you would use Living Bomb on would be Shaw Pride, Iron Juggernaut, Malkrog, etc. And Nether's Tempest would be on like the Protectors or Norse, and you could argue Galacras. I think I already said him. If not, alright. So, anyways, that's that. And for your mage buffs, you got Invocation. We're gonna take Invocation here because it's the most viable DPS increase that a Frost Mage has. Root of Power, we really don't need it because Frost is very mobile. It's very active. It's very fast, and the fast-paced spec, in my opinion, and you really kind of get out of your 5-yard range in a lot of fights for Frost rather. So, and it just wastes the cast and everything else. I know that Evocation is also a cast or a channeled spell, but it doesn't give me that range limit that I have to be in. Incanter's Ward, we don't go with it because you can't guarantee it's going to be up, or you can have it up 100% of the time. So, we're going to move on to Glyphs, and for the Glyphs you want Glyph of Icy Veins, Glyph of Splitting Ice, and Glyph of Cone of Cold. You can switch out Cone of Cold for Arcane Explosion. You can switch it out for the Water Elemental and Rapid Displacement. Rapid Displacement has its uses. I use it more often than not on certain fights. So you just gotta be aware if a fight has a lot of movement in it and you don't want to take the time to walk. Like say Malkrok, the rapid displacement glyph combined with blazing speed is very powerful. You can blink and run over to a purple puddle, have it go off, and then blink right back to your sector. So it's very powerful, at least on that fight, and many others as well. Minor glyphs are very aesthetic looking. My OCD kicks in, and I want my clones to basically cast what I'm casting. I don't like the way the normal the baseline water elemental looks, so I go and I think the unbound looks a lot better. Anyways, and glyph of momentum. I'm actually surprised that this is a minor glyph. The According to how powerful it is, really, it could be actually a major glyph. So basically what this does is normally, if you don't have a glyph, and you're strafing left, or moving left or right, and your camera's facing forward, you're going to blink forward, which could be catastrophic back in the day before this was really implemented. And, it just puts you in bad situations. So if I'm going left and I blink left, I'm going to go left while blink in that direction. It's fantastic for moving around bosses or stuff like that. And then what I also recommend for at least mages and nearly for every other class that you do play is your two side movement keys. Instead of turning your character, make them strafe. It's very powerful when you can do this. So without further ado, let's just go talk about gems, enchants, and the item prioritize. Alright, so gems. You want the meta gem or the legendary meta gem? If you can't get it, I think there's one that's 216 intellect and 3% increased critical strike effect, which is very useful if you don't have the meta, or the legendary meta rather. For green gems that go in blue slots, you want the Lightning Wild Jade, a 160 haste and 160 hit. Just to get you to that hit cap, and you don't have to reforge into hit, which is I guess a DPS loss at that point. I guess that wouldn't be a DPS loss because you need to have hit cap, but that's a side point. So, whoops. In your red sockets, if you are not, or I mean, if you are hit capped, you want them all to be intellect in 80 intellect, 160 haste, reckless, vermilion, onyx. And your yellows are always going to be the perfect quick sunstone, 320 haste, and again with the lightning wild jade. If you need to get hit capped and you can afford to not reforge into hit, you go with this gem. It's called the Wicked Vermilion Onyx, 160 expertise and 160 haste. Expertise was factored into the hit percent formula, and for casters and I think hunters too. So it helps you get the hit cap without um, having to reforge in the hit. For enchants, you want the 200 intellect and 100 crit on your shoulders, 180 into your back piece, 80 to all stats on your chest, 180 into your bracers, Jade Spirit on your main hand weapon, 165 intellect on your offhand. If you're an enchanter, of course you want the enchant on your rings. I have 140 mastery minor speed increase on my boots, and I have 170 mastery on my gloves because I'm only like one or two pieces of normal gear away from the soft cap of 14,442, no, 424 rather, haste rating. So at that point, mastery becomes better stat to go for. So that's why I have those. But if you are not near that rating, you want to have 170 haste on your gloves, and I think it's 175 haste on your boots. For your legs, you want the 285 intellect and 165 crit. And for your belt, you want the belt buckle. Can't go wrong there. Alright, so let's jump into my macros before we get into the rotation. My macros are as follows. This doesn't let me cast Frostbolt if I'm in the middle of an evocation or a channeling spell rather. So it's very useful. So I don't have to get my Invoker's energy and I accidentally press my Frostbolt and I don't get it and I just wasted about 2.5 seconds of DPS. So it's very useful. This is my DPS macro. Casts Icy Veins and Mirror Images and uses a potion. And my Ice Block is very useful. Cast Ice Block, cancel Aura. Aura? Ice Block? This one's meant for Fire Spec because you don't really want to use Combustion and Mirror Images at the same exact time. You want to, I mean, that's a whole different guide, which I'll post in about a couple of weeks. So that's about it for those. My alter time. Oh, my alter time macro is very useful. It just casts alter time, and then casts instant frost fireball, so I don't have to like worry about it. It's just already there because that's when you proc it, when you have at least a brain freeze proc in the beginning. But I'll go over the rotation right now. So right now the rotation is as follows. You want to keep your Mage Bomb up on your target at all times. 1 second right here while I get Living Bomb because I'm on a single target. I already put up Frost Armor. So anyways, you want to use your Mage Bomb on the target at all times possible. You can refresh it at any time, but the preferred time is when you have your Trinkets proc, when your Weapon procs, when your Metagen procs, and stuff like that. That way, your bomb takes a snapshot of your buffs, and so that's what you want to do. But if you can't do that, just like make sure that it's up at all times. And when you refresh it, make sure it's less than 2 seconds, unless your trinkets proc in the middle of it. Then go ahead and use the refresh. So, anyways, it's the maintain your bomb, use frozen orb on cooldown. You know, use your DPS cooldowns on cooldown, and then use brain freeze. I mean, use frost firebolt when brain freeze procs. Use ice lance whenever fingers are frost proc, and frostbolt as your filler. Now, to get into this, if you have the 2-piece bonus from Siege of Orgrimmar, what it does, when you consume a brain freeze, it increases the damage of your next ice lance, frostbolt, frost firebolt, or cone of cold spells by 20%. That's a very big damage increase actually. So if you have the 2-piece bonus, you're going to want to sit on one proc of Fingers of Frost proc for the whole duration of it. And if you cannot get a brain freeze proc, about 2 seconds left, you can just cast it off, which is bad RNG, but I mean, it is what it is. So this is what it's going to look like. So let's just say that we have a 10-second DBM pull timer. In about 7 seconds, we hit our evocation for our buff. And then we go, in about 4 seconds, we pop our cooldowns, we get pre-potted and stuff like that. Got our mirror images up. And then we precast at 1 second. We put our Mage Bomb up. See, trinkets proc. So I'll redo it. And then I have all my procs, so I'll cast Alter Time. And then I just waste. And then I'll recast it. And then I'll just go back to rotation. Now, I'm sitting on one proc. And so I'll cast that one off. And then I'll cast Brain Freeze. And then I'll cast Ice Lance. So that's what you do with the 2-piece bonus. It's very basic once you get it down. I would sit at a target dummy for a good 30 minutes to an hour. I mean, if you have the time, you know, if you can afford the time, I mean, just to sit there, because if you sit there and wail on a target dummy for hours or for a long period of time, you'll see the muscle memory form, which is what you want. There's not much to the rotation except for what I just showed you. But just keep an eye out for your procs and your trinket procs. And without any further ado, if this guide helped you in any way, please leave a like, please leave a comment, please leave me feedback, please leave me anything you want to leave me. It'd be much appreciated. And I'll see you guys next time. Oh, and please in the comments below, do uh, a comment as to what video that you would like to see next. I'm about to personally do another Mage guide of the fire spec, and that'll be out within the next 2 weeks. However, in the meantime, if you guys want to see any other videos, just let me know in the comments below. All right, peace out, y'all.